And we're probably live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Friday, December 27th. I am Josh Engleman, and I'm here to break down this lovely 8-game slate. We got a full one today. A 7 o'clock, 2 7:30s, 2 8s, 2 9s, and a 10. We got a lot going on today, and we're all spread out all the way until 10. So we got a lot to break down for this one. We'll have some fun. How'd you guys do yesterday? How'd it go? How were things? This is what I'm curious about. How did everything go for everybody? I see Jake picked up a college football win. That's always good to see. Anybody get anything NBA side? I felt like I had a pretty good angle on yesterday's slate. Maybe I'm crazy. I feel like I had too many big misses. Shea went insane. Makes sense to me. Jalen Johnson had the big one. Trey got to 55.5. I was on that most of the day. RJ Barrett with 55. I did shout that out from time to time. Damn, Zach Edey got to 50. That's wild. Denny got to 50. Damn. You know who didn't? Clint Capella. Clint Capella did not. No, he did not. Got a big value day out of Cam Whitmore once we got that news. Goga with the big day too. 43. That's not too bad for him. Nemhard with a monster. 23, 9, and 7. Oh man, I thought Zach LaVine had 8 stocks, but it was just 7 turnovers. That'll happen from time to time. Pistons pick up the win in Sacramento. That's always fun. Memphis put up 155 points on Toronto in regulation. That Chicago-Atlanta game was crazy. I mean, look, we talked about this a lot yesterday. The giant difference in total and pace for some of those games. Miami-Orlando, 89-88. Chicago and Atlanta, 141-133. Pace and total matters a lot, guys. Pace and total matters a hell of a lot. Yeah, Javon Carter out of nowhere with the crazy game. Truly crazy game. All right, let's get ownership exported here. We'll get all of our stuff ready, and then we'll get this started. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. All right. First draft here. What do we got? We ready? Let's do it. New York Knicks. 6.5-point favorites in Orlando. By the way, before I even get to this game, we need to have this conversation. What is the deal here, NBA? We had however many games yesterday. 7, 8, 9 was it total? Why are the Magic, the Pacers, the Nets, the Grizzlies, the Pelicans, the Rockets, why are all these teams on back-to-backs? Where's everybody else? Why do we have so many damn back-to-backs today? Insane. Again, Knicks 6.5-point favorites in Orlando, 211 total. S&P. I'm going to read that off because it's fun for me. People swore Sacramento was good, swore they could win important games. Now they're 13-18 in December. 2.5 years of their current alignment, close to blowing it up. Yeah. I wonder who was out in front of that one. This guy. And you, obviously. But we were out ahead of this one pretty easily. Certainly thought at the moment DeMar got traded. What is wrong with the Stokastic site? Let's find out. Nothing. So Knicks, not much to really say here. Everybody that's normally available is available. Now, this is the lowest paced game on the slate. I got it at 94.3. There's not a single game lower than that. Now, there's only 2 games that break free. A lot of these games are on the slower side, but this is the slowest. And a 211.5 total is the lowest total. This is going to be offense versus defense here. Knicks are all offense, solid defense. Orlando is no offense, good defense. There's no ownership coming into the Knicks right now, but I would argue these guys are a bit under-owned. Mikal Bridges, 1% owned, 6,200. I got him 8% optimal. Why isn't he getting a little bit more love here? Especially now that he's appears to not be dog shit anymore. Bridges is starting to get that game back, allegedly. Let's actually look at it, since we can do that kind of stuff during this show. So this is dunks and threes. Shooting 37% from 3 on the season. Look at how that's climbing. Was not very good here. Look at that ramp up. Bridges' shot is starting to fall a little bit better. Let's look at the true shooting. Look at that. Cratered at the end of November. Climbing back up to that range that we expect. Mid-range. He's just kind of been neutral at mid-range. I mean, he's making everything at the rim, which is kind of crazy. We're starting to get Mikal Bridges back. As of right now, Mikal Bridges is having the best offensive plus-minus season of his career. Even better than that breakout Phoenix season. So, 1% own Max Bridges? Max Bridges. Mikal Bridges? Yeah. I'll work with that. I think Josh Hart's a little underowned. I think Anunoby's a little underowned. I think Brunson's a little underowned. Towns is about right. Center's center. Like, that's always going to be a little bit more complicating, especially when you have Wemby on the slate, Jokic on the slate. A little more complicating for Towns, but Bridges, Hart, Anunoby, Brunson. These guys look underowned. Is it a pace down spot for the Knicks? Yeah. Is it a good defensive matchup for Orlando? Yeah. But even with all of that, they're still playing an 8-man rotation, essentially. It might, maybe some point in time, Landry Shamet works his way into this, but I think these Knicks guys are a little underowned. In particular, Bridges, Hart, and Anunoby. I think those guys should all be closer to 10 than what we're seeing right now. So, GPP-wise, I'm kind of a fan of these Knicks wings, especially because of the MPEs. Like, none of the prices are all that crazy. Shooting guard, small forward on Bridges. Small forward, power forward on Hart. Small forward, power forward on Anunoby. These guys aren't getting the proper representation today. I think we should be getting to a little bit more Knicks. So keep that in mind for your builds later today. Who knows? Maybe it all changes. Yeah, S&P, for sure. There's so much more spacing on the floor. People really only like to talk about the positives and not the trade-offs. It's so bizarre. Like, there shouldn't be a single person on the planet that's like, wow, Cat's really awesome. Can't believe the Wolves traded. It's like, no. Cat's playing the 5 now, where he's wildly overqualified offensively. We've known his offensive numbers at the 5 are always awesome, but he wasn't the 5 for the past 2 years, so his numbers go down. Now that he's playing that spot, Knicks offense opens up. Everybody can look a little bit better, but nobody pays attention to defense. Not that it hasn't gotten better. He hasn't been the dumpster fire that he was at the beginning of the year, but how Cat plays only matters in the playoffs. In the regular season, we should have been expecting this the entire time. The dude's damn good on offense. Always has been. But everybody's just like, well, the defense will get better when Mitchell Robinson comes back. Okay. Well, now you're invalidating Karl Anthony Towns in that scenario. Maybe that's a proper trade-off. Maybe you don't want to play him as the 4 alongside a lesser version than Rudy Gobert. These are all things we're going to learn come playoff times if everybody's healthy. Now on the Orlando side, we don't know their injury status. This one's a fool's errand for us right now because of the back-to-back. Tristan da Silva is 9% owned. Everybody else is lower than that. Now on the FanDuel side, Suggs is $400 cheaper, and Goga has the power forward eligibility. So we're seeing a little bit more love coming in on FanDuel. But for Orlando, pace down spot, poor total, underdogs. What are we supposed to like here? Like, you want to tell me that KCP and Suggs are a little underowned? Sure, that's a bit of a pay up to be contrarian option for Suggs. You want to roll the dice on De Silva? I think he's properly owned. Trevelyan Queen is 4,300, so he did get that price bump. I'd argue that he's under owned at 4%, but not by anything major. There's a lot better spots today than getting Orlando in a pace down, slow matchup against a Knicks team that's the favorite in this one. So I don't have too much to say about Orlando today. Jason Barber, congratulations. There's not a lot to take away from Orlando right now. Now maybe we get weird news and somebody's out because of the back-to-back. That doesn't seem super likely, but that could happen. Ultimately, I just really don't want anything from Orlando. Pacers and Celtics. Pacers on the back-to-back from yesterday. 11.5-point dogs in Boston, 232 total. Miles Turner was questionable heading into yesterday. Don't totally know his status yet. Obi Toppin left early with a sprained ankle. Hard to believe that he'll play today. But obviously, Indy rolling into a really bad matchup, at least defensively, and major pace down spot. They lose 2.7 possessions below their average. The most owned guy for the Pacers right now is 4% to Pascal Siakam. Now, this is sort of like the Knicks side. I think Halliburton's underowned at 8,100. I think Pascal Siakam is a hair underowned. I think Benedict Mathurin, 6K shooting guard, small forward, underowned. These aren't guys that you're going to get a lot of, but they're really nice guys to get to be a little different in the GPPs. Turner looks solid enough if he plays. There's nobody that you're just unloading on for Indy, but tournament pivots, yeah, they're here, and those main guys. Same for New York. These guys are just getting a little bit less love than they should be. Now, obviously, I don't love the matchup, but Indy can just be in this game. This could be a 6-point game in the fourth quarter, and all these guys are playing their normal minutes. If that's the case, you're getting 35 or 36 out of Halliburton. You're getting 34 out of Siakam. You're getting 34 out of Mathurin. Nembhard's starting to play a little bit more. Hard to really want to get to him, though. But I like Halliburton, Siakam, and Mathurin a lot more than the public ownership is showing. Now for Boston, going to be hard to dig in too much here. Drew Holiday, Q-tag, missed the last one. Porzingis, Q-tag, rolled his ankle last time out. We'll see if any of these guys end up playing. We are getting 10 to 15% ownership on Tatum, Brown, and Holiday. Now, they are the three guys that also made it north of 10% optimal for me. All three of those guys north of 20% boom as well. You can get to Porzingis. You can get to Derek White. I don't think there are any sort of real priorities. Maybe all of that changes if those guys end up out again. I mean, the Celtics don't care. The only thing that matters to them is making sure they're healthy. But, like 9,900 for Tatum with an MPE. Yeah, he should be 15% owned. Jaylen Brown, 7,900 with an MPE. Yeah, he should be 10% owned. Drew Holiday's 4,700. If he's playing 30 minutes probably. Certainly not a bad matchup here against Indy. Nobody out there to slow him down. So I like getting to these pieces of Boston. They certainly look a lot better than the Knicks, the Pacers, and Orlando did. But no major stands. This isn't where we're going to find the crazy value that exists here. But if I'm paying up for one guy, it's Jason Tatum so far. We'll talk about who we're really paying up for as we keep this one moving a little bit more. Celtics are in a funk. It'll be a closer game. Yeah, I don't think that's a real thing. I can say this. As of right now, I do expect one of these guys to sit. I've got the line at a little over 12.5, almost 13. The line is 11. So my expectation is that we do lose one of Drew or Porzingis. That will bring my line down a little bit. It doesn't exactly change the outlook for Boston, but I do think they're going to be missing somebody. The San Antonio Wembies are 7.5-point favorites in Brooklyn. And we have a 214 total here. So we have 4 games today with a total at 214 or lower. Knicks Orlando's at 211. Spurs Brooklyn's at 214. Minnesota Houston is at 213. Golden State and the Clippers are at 213. We happen to be getting quite a bit of ownership here on Devin Vassell. 60 on DraftKings, 60 on FanDuel. Now, I do not expect him to be 60% owned when we get to lock today. Is he going to be heavily owned? Yes. 30 to 40% seems pretty likely to me. He's my most optimal guy here. Technically, Chris Paul has a higher boom score than Vassell does, but the MPE for Vassell carries a lot of weight. He's just going to be highly owned. He should be highly owned. I don't have much else to say here. Devin Vassell is one of the better plays you're going to find today. The price, the flexibility, the role, the matchup, all of it is in his favor. And then we're getting a small amount of ownership to Jeremy Sohan and Chris Paul. They're both at about 10%. I like Paul more than I like Sohan, but I do think Sohan is essentially properly owned. But Chris Paul is playing a bit more right now. I went 32 minutes for Paul, and I have his optimal rate at 14%. That's a bit higher than his ownership. He's probably one of the more under-owned guys to me. I know everybody wants to go to Wemby. 11K on DraftKings, center only. Look, it's not that he doesn't look good, because he clearly does. 1.6 fantasy points per minute. I got him at 54. Target score, though, is 64, which I do think that he does 20% of the time. The problem is we have a direct comp today to Nikola Jokic. And the Nuggets game has a 237 total. This game has a 214 total. That's 23 real points. I got San Antonio at 240 fantasy points on DraftKings. We got Denver at a little over 250. So I prefer Jokic to Wemby. Watching the relationship between their ownership will be interesting. Jokic is projected for quite a bit more as of right now. I clearly have no problem getting Victor Wembanyama. And 2% ownership does sound too low. But 11K is no joke for a price tag. I get it. He's playing insane right now. I mean, I have him projected for 24.5 points, 10 boards, 4 assists, and 5 stocks, including 3.8 blocks. There's a massive score in Wemby for sure. But I'm not confident he's easy to get to. He's certainly not as easy to get to as Devin Vassell. I don't think he looks as good as Sohan or Chris Paul. But the upside is there. You're searching for 64 fantasy points out of Wemby with the way that the slate is set up right now. It's a big number, but I think he does it 20% of the time. I don't think you're really going to anything else from San Antonio other than Wemby, Sohan, Vassell, or Paul. Champagne's minutes are down now. Barnes' minutes are way down. Keldon Johnson and Castle just both play around 20. So to me, if I'm ranking these guys, it's Vassell, Paul, Sohan, Wemby. But I know you guys are going to want Wemby a little bit more than that. Look, he's good, but Nikola Jokic is better. I think the game script is a lot better. Because we got to remember here, this is a massive pace down spot for San Antonio. And that's the part we can't forget about. And that's what's causing Wemby to not look as good. San Antonio is middle of the pack in pace. Brooklyn is the slowest team in the league. And there's a pretty good chance Ben Simmons isn't playing this game. If anybody's going to make them faster, it's him. So, speaking of Brooklyn, we don't totally know what we're getting out of these guys. They are on the back-to-back. I did put Dorian Finney-Smith in. I did take Ben Simmons out. I'm not anticipating him playing the back-to-back. Maybe we'll find out something different. The only guys getting any ownership are 10% to Noah Clowney and 15% to Nick Claxton. Now, I didn't get either of those guys to 10% optimal. I do think Claxton looks the best and is essentially properly owned. He does seem like the best option you can get from Brooklyn. I don't mind at all getting to the Noah Clowney value, but we shall see. Yeah, Steven, I'll believe it when I see it. When's the last time he's played a back-to-back? Do we know? I don't think he's done it at all this year. And if it hasn't been this year, I don't know when it would have been. Let me check. Because if he did, then I'll pay attention a little bit more. So he sat out the most recent back-to-back, second half of that back-to-back on the first and the second. Sat out the second half of the back-to-back on the 24th and 25th. Sat out the back-to-back on the 8th and 9th, the 3rd and 4th, the 29th and 30th. So he's definitely sat out every single back-to-back so far. I'm going to assume he does it again today. Yeah, S&P, you're going to... Not only is he going to deserve an all-star appearance, but he's going to make first-team All-NBA if he stays healthy. And he's going to deserve it. S&P, have you seen his ranks in the projection models? We talked about it yesterday. Victor Wembanyama is now the second highest Darko plus minus of anybody in the league. Equal to Shea. Higher than Tatum, higher than Giannis. I don't know what this dude's going to become, but he is going to be amazing. Jake, it's probably not a hammer. I just assume that it's incredibly long and thin. He's got like a really big screwdriver, I would say. Right? This feels like a lot more length than girth. Just me. Is that just me? Might just be me. All right, so for Brooklyn, it's Clowney and it's Claxton, but it's not. I don't know. Like, what else would you want here for Brooklyn? They're certainly going to have some time having some trouble getting to the rim. What do they do getting to the rim? My guess is that they don't get to the rim very often. And that's going to really make them just jack up a baguette. Yeah, I like that. He's got a baguette. Jake, thank you for that. That's good. It's a baguette. That's the perfect comp. I'm honestly a little mad. For a brief second, I thought, think of things that are French. I didn't land on baguette. So kudos to you, Jake. That's better than me here. All right, Brooklyn. How often does Brooklyn get to the rim? Brooklyn is middle of the pack, 32% getting to the rim. But I have a feeling that has a lot to do with Cam Thomas and Dennis Schroeder. Let me just take a peek-see here. We'll go to lineups, shooting frequency, and we'll take Cam Thomas and Dennis Schroeder off. The Nets get to the rim without those two dudes 31% of the time. That's a 38th percentile. This is going to be tough sledding here for Brooklyn. I don't see anybody. I mean, I didn't get anybody north of 10% optimal. Claxton would be the guy that has the best chance to provide you the score you want, but we're not going to be lost on centers today. And then, Noah Clowney is sitting there with that power forward eligibility, but I don't really want Cam Johnson. I don't want Keon Johnson or Jalen Wilson or Dorian Finney-Smith. I think it's a lot easier to just simply stay the hell away from the Brooklyn Nets. Will allow us to talk about the second best game on today's slate. And that would be the Minnesota Timberwolves. 1.5 point dogs in Houston, 213 total. So slightly faster pace than the last game, 1 point less. A lot of that just has to do with the fact that Minnesota and Houston have some of the best defenses in the league. Because right now we're looking at Houston as the number 3 defense, Minnesota as the number 4 defense. Now, Minnesota doesn't do anything different ever. Randall's 10% owned, Reed's 10% owned, Edwards, Gobert, McDaniels, Conley, and DiVincenzo are all 5, 6, or 7. Look at the optimal rates I have for these guys. 8, 9, 9, 7, 6, 6, 6. They all got to double digit boom. 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 21, 18. The guy I want the most here is probably Ant, given his ownership. 8,500 point guard, shooting guard eligible. I just don't have a single guy from Minnesota that I want to corner the market on. I'll take any one of their main dudes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the guy I definitely want the least. And I probably would say I only want 7 of their main dudes. But if it's DiVincenzo, if it's Reed, if it's Conley, McDaniels, Randall, Gobert, Edwards, I figure like one of those guys is getting into a lineup pretty frequently, but you can pick randomly as far as I'm concerned, and whatever fits your lineup works. Nobody looks different. It's the same team every day. These guys' salaries barely move. They're in a difficult matchup. It's hard for Minnesota to pop in these scenarios when everybody's just around. Like, we don't create any value from Minnesota in these scenarios. So I'm not all that interested in much from Minnesota other than I'm happy to get any one of their main dudes. Now for Houston, this is basically impossible to talk about right now. We don't know the status of Dylan Brooks on the back-to-back. I have him in. We don't know the status of Tari Eason on whether or not this dude will ever play again. I have him in. And if everybody's in, they look like a worse version of Minnesota. 5% ownership to Jalen Green, Amin Thompson, and Fred VanVleet. I got these guys in like the 6 to 8 range. But like, what do you prioritize here? I want to watch this game because I want to watch the defense on both sides. But from a DFS perspective, I don't know how this is the game. Like, yeah, it could be close, but this could be 91-89 final, and we're not going to be able to squeeze a lot out of it. There's a lot less fantasy points projected in this game than there are in the others. So go out of your way to watch this one at 8 o'clock, but I wouldn't go out of your way to play too much of it. I mean, none of these guys are really great per minute dudes other than Şengün. Jabari is like 0.8. Fred VanVleet's under 1 now. Dylan Brooks is 0.75. Jalen Green's like 0.9 to 0.95. These guys get by on their defense. That's not helpful in DFS. Game number 5. Perfect opportunity for you guys, since we're at the halfway point, for you guys to hit that like button. That would help me out a ton. We could also do this. Sign up for the NFL Sims Max package. There's a lot of NFL left. You've got this entire weekend, all of the playoffs, all of those showdown slates that exist, and fun little 2-day playoff slates that will ultimately exist. We've got everything for it. Projections, ownership, our top stacks tool, our top player rates, all of our simulation stuff. So contest generator, single lineup simulator, our full Sims package, premium Discord. You can get in for $179 as long as you click the link in the description of this video, or when you sign up and you select the NFL Max package, you use the promo code CELEBRATE. It's $179. This will take you all the way until Super Bowl Sunday. You won't make another NFL payment again this year if you pick it up now. The Memphis Grizzlies, fresh off an absolute ass beating handed out yesterday, taking on the New Orleans Pelicans, 238 total. Now, I am way more interested in the Pelicans side from a betting perspective. And I want to point this out because I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. But neither one of these teams have an injury report. The Grizzlies don't have one on the back-to-back. The Pelicans don't have one on the back-to-back. I have this line at basically -4, which is leading me to believe that someone in the Triple J, Desmond Bane trio is not playing today. We already don't expect to see Santi Aldama, who left early yesterday. But based on where the line is right now, I either think the line... No, I guess I don't think that. I think people are going to be... Sorry, I said that backwards while I was spitting all my nonsense. I think people for New Orleans are going to end up out today, and we don't necessarily know who that's going to be, because I have this game a lot closer than what the line is showing. And if that's the case, we're going to end up missing something in the Murray, McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy group. Maybe two of them. So now for Memphis. They're getting a decent chunk of ownership. It's 10% to Morant, 10% to Bane, 10% to Wells. It's 15 to Triple J, and 15 to Zach Edey. Now, I do think that all of these guys should be getting some ownership. I think Jalen Wells is a bit over-owned, although in theory he could fall into some extra minutes today because of no Aldama, but they're just so deep that I don't think that's how it happens. So I don't love the ownership on Wells. I completely agree with the Zach Edey ownership, but let's remember here, there's a couple other 5K centers that exist. Bane looks fine. Triple J should be 15% owned. Josh should be 10% owned. These guys all look good. But I think they're going to end up in a situation where they look even better with some of these missing New Orleans guys that I'm anticipating, at least. But if I'm ranking Memphis, it's Triple J, it's Ja, Edey, Bane, Wells. I would rather take Scottie Pippen than Jalen Wells today. But Wells is 10% owned and Pippen is 4%. Now, I don't really want either of them, but I would like that. Mitchell, if you think Ja's sitting today, then I would go ahead and start unloading a clip on the Pelicans and take the points. There's nothing in the data right now that makes it seem like Ja is sitting today. If there are people sitting, they seem a lot more likely to be sitting on the New Orleans side. Now, it could be Ja, but then I think you're missing a bunch of Pelicans guys. But there's nothing that supports Ja being out for this line. I got to look at one thing here quickly. Memphis. That's not Memphis. That's Memphis. 114-1. Huh. Why is this off? That's not supposed to be 115-3. That's supposed to be 113-2. Let me just fix a formula quickly. I just realized I didn't, and that might be the issue. I'm dumb. I'm dumb a lot. I'm an incredibly forgetful person. Okay, now I've got my data correct. There we go. That was just a little tiny bit off. Nope, this got to go too. I've got so many stupid formulas in this sheet that I forget to update every time. It's really awful. Why is my keyboard light not working? Damn, I can't get anything going well here today. Okay, now we're good. Now we're good. So let's look at the New Orleans side, which honestly, I don't have a lot of confidence here. Assuming everybody is in, you're kind of looking at the Pels in like a slightly discounted way to Memphis. Now, it's a pace up spot for New Orleans. We are getting a little over 10% ownership to CJ. But like, DeJounte should be around 10. Murphy should be around 10. Herb Jones should be around 10. I don't want to dig in too much here because I don't think these guys are going to play. But the problem here is that this is the fastest game in the day. I got it at 100.4 possessions. And it's a 238 total, which is the highest total on today's slate. So I want to get pieces of this game. But the fact that we don't have the Grizzlies injury report or the Pelicans injury report means this is going to be a very important game to break down tonight on the deeper dive, which you don't want to miss. S and Pete, I don't want to give too much shit to the Murray deal. The real problem is the McCollum extension. Because if they just don't have CJ McCollum, then I don't really hate that Murray acquisition because they needed that position to be filled. It's the CJ McCollum contract that's hurting them more than the Murray deal to me. So I'm gonna pack it in on the Pels because we just don't know what's going on here. Jake, no, you won't be able to watch the deeper dive if you don't hit the like button right now. Maybe Minnesota Houston is your favorite game today, or maybe, just maybe, it's Cleveland and Denver. Cavs are 2-point favorites in Denver, 237 total. Now, for Cleveland, everybody that's normally available is available, except we have a Q tag on Dean Wade. On the Denver side, everybody that's normally available is available, except for Aaron Gordon, who is out. Yeah, that's moving off of that McCollum contract would cost some, might cost a few little picks. Great salary ballast, but that is a wildly untradeable contract right now. Wait, is it not as long as I thought? Man, has he signed that long ago? Never mind. He's only got one more year left. It's not as bad as I remember. I thought it was a 3-year deal. It was only a 2-year extension? Huh. All right. Not as bad as I thought, but still bad. I mean, he's making 30 next year. 34-year-old not good dude. I could have swore there was another year on that deal. Guess I'm wrong. Ooh, S&P, I don't know about that one. I'm not sure I agree there. And we don't disagree all that often. I mean, if he's the 36% from 3 guy that he was last year, that'll work. He took 7 threes a game last year, made 36%. Now, it doesn't appear that he's that guy. That was a bit of an outlier. But I kind of get it. All right, so the Cleveland side. There's not much ownership coming into these guys. 10% to Mobley, 10% to Garland. That's exactly where I have them. Mitchell and Allen look like a hair under-owned, but nothing crazy. If you're getting to Cleveland, you're getting to one of the main 4 starters, and you're not getting to anything else. That seems pretty safe. Mobley's my priority. Garland would be second. Mitchell third. Allen fourth. If I could be a GM for any team, what would it be? That's a good question. I mean, the Knicks are the snap answer, but I wouldn't want to work under Dolan. Dallas would have been the answer if Cubes still own the team. The answer would have been Dallas if Cuban was still the owner. Brooklyn. Yeah, that's easy. Brooklyn. It's not even close. It's Brooklyn. It's a 1,000,000% Brooklyn. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think there's a close second answer. It's definitely Brooklyn. Yeah. Brooklyn. Levert. No. I think I got that covered. Yeah, the light on my keyboard right now is pissing me off in the crazy. Oh, I was hitting the wrong button. That makes sense. Now it looks normal again. So there's a light you could turn on underneath the keys that illuminate through the letters. And I like to have it off when I'm at my desk because it creates this weird, you can't see it as well as you would like to. But I had it on one notch above dark, and it basically just made every key look blank. So that wasn't fun. No, not John C. Not that kind of light. It's the Logitech Mac keyboard. So it's very Mac themed, but the lights blend in with the keys too much. All right, Denver. As I mentioned, no Aaron Gordon. So we should be getting Peyton Watson starting in Aaron Gordon's spot. We are getting 40 ownership to Nikola Jokic, 15 to Jamal Murray, and then basically nothing to everybody else. So right out of the gate, love Jokic, best pay up on the slate, probably the best play on the slate. I am more than happy to get to Nikola Jokic here. I don't care that he's 11-8, completely deserves the price tag. I definitely have interest in Jamal Murray at 7,400, point guard, shooting guard eligible. He's playing like 38 minutes a night now. Seems like the type of matchup that he's going to do that again. But he's already 15% owned. That's about where it should be. But MPJ at 6,400, no Aaron Gordon. Peyton Watson, 4,400, no Aaron Gordon. Both of these guys are 3 and 4% owned. I think they should be 10. So I think MPJ and Peyton Watson are both a bit under-owned for what we have here. Now, it's not a great matchup, but we're removing 30 minutes from the rotation, and that's going to go to Watson, and it's not going to take MPJ off the floor. So I want to get as much Jokic as I can. I want to get to a bunch of Jamal Murray, but don't sleep on Michael Porter Jr. or Peyton Watson. Honestly, don't totally sleep on Christian Brown either, but you can mostly sleep on it. Yeah, Murray's not overvalued because of the season he had with the Spurs. He might be overvalued for the season he had last year with the Hawks, plus 1.9 offensive EPM. 27% assist rate with Trae Young out there a bunch. You know, not the best true shooting in the world. It's always been below average. The defense has changed a bit and is now, that's really the problem. His defense isn't what it was in 2020 or 2018 even. Good defensive rebounder for his size. He was good last year in Atlanta. So get your jokers. All right, let's do the quick comparison. So Jokic, I have 16% optimal, 40% boom. Wemby, oh, he's a very overrated defender now, Mitchell. That I agree with. So Wemby is at 6% optimal, 20% boom. Jokic is 16 and 40. So 10 extra points of optimal rate, double the likelihood of hitting the boom score. I get why Jokic is getting as much love as he is. He should be he is a better play than Victor Wembanyama. Now, that doesn't mean that Jokic always beats him. And I do like the ownership dynamic between the two. But Jokic is very clearly ahead of Wemby. All right, 2 to go. This one stinks. I don't really want to talk about this. The Dallas Mavericks are 2.5-point dogs in Phoenix. 225 total. Now, what sucks here is that we're not going to have Luka Doncic for a month. And now he's not going to be eligible for All NBA, which is really annoying because he's probably one of the 15 best guys, even if he plays 60 games. But it sucks. I hate seeing him gone. And Derek Lively's questionable today. Now, the guy getting the most ownership is Kyrie Irving at 13%. That's exactly where I have him optimal. I'd argue he's a hair under-owned. Kind of used to it now. We know what we get out of Kyrie when Luka's not around. But he's 8,300. He's point guard, shooting guard eligible. Going up against a Phoenix team that's not like next level defensively by any means. Better than you would ever expect them to be. But, you know, still 25th. Not good. But they're not like a joke of a defense, at least. So I like Kyrie. Daniel Gafford's getting 12% ownership. You know, obviously he's going to be pretty popular if Derek Lively ends up out. But if Lively is in, I'm not as interested in Gafford. We're going to need Lively out, at which point Daniel Gafford is going to be heavily owned. But for right now, assuming Lively is in, I'm not a big believer in Gafford. I mean, honestly, I kind of like Lively just as much. But PJ Washington doesn't look great. Dinwiddie doesn't look great. Clay looks all right. But still like a 5 to 10% dude. To me, it's really Kyrie and not much else. Which isn't surprising because this is a massive pace down spot for Dallas. Dallas on the season is 9th in pace. They will be faster without Luka Doncic. And the Phoenix Suns are 23rd in pace. So really big pace down spot for Dallas. And I think that's what's taking a bit of a bite out of these guys. For Phoenix, hard to say, really. No Grayson Allen, no Devin Booker. No love coming into these guys. It kind of looks exactly like the Dallas side. Kevin Durant playing the role of Kyrie Irving. He's 12% owned. Then you get 9 to Royce O'Neal, 7 to Nurkic, 8 to Dunn, 7 to Tyus Jones. I think Tyus Jones is the second best play here behind Durant. After that, I probably don't want much of anything. But I don't really have anybody that I want to really get to here. Pace down spot as well for Phoenix. Dallas's defense is 12th. A decent chance it looks even a little bit better with Luka off. So it's not really a great matchup for Phoenix. They're missing 2 of their best offensive players. Durant is here, but no Devin Booker, no Grayson Allen. That stings on the offensive side of the ball. So it's really Durant for me, and then maybe a little Tyus Jones. But it's not the most fun game in the world. Obviously, we always want Dallas against Phoenix when Luka's playing and when Booker's playing, because those guys go at each other. Luka loves giving Phoenix the business. Unfortunately, he's not going to be doing that for like a month. Sucks. All right, 1 game left. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet, guys. Schedule for the rest of the day. Let me hit you guys with that goods. Let's see what we have here. Is it posted? Not posted. Scheisse. Schedule. Staffing view. Okay. Today is Friday. NFL strategy show at 10 o'clock with Laffy and Greg. The NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. I am back with DK for the deeper dive at 5. It should be a good one with these 8 games. Greg and Eric are back for Live Before Lock at 6. And then for the first time since last Friday, Greg and I are back for playback tonight from 7 to 8. Come join us, watch the games. We'll talk swaps, we'll talk bets, we'll talk ownership, we'll talk all that good stuff. Necklace. So is Will Hardy a good coach? Yes. I think he's a very good coach. But for now, we got to talk about these Golden State Warriors that are 4.5 point dogs in LA. 213 total. Another low total, low pace matchup. Golden State is going to be without Steph Curry today. Also without Gary Payton. And we've got a Q tag on Draymond Green. So we get to see what Dennis Schroeder looks like manning the helm. He's 30% owned on DraftKings. Kuminga's 20. Pajemski's 15. Trace Jackson Davis is 15. Andrew Wiggins is 15. Now, I got a lot to say about these guys. I understand the Schroeder ownership. He's got great flexibility. There's a lot of usage to go around. I don't know how big of a bump he's going to take. Should play around 30 minutes. If it's competitive, he's going to be out there. I understand the Schroeder ownership from the flexibility. Kuminga at 22. I like Kuminga more than I like anybody else on Golden State. Power forward only sucks, but 5,500, all the shots he could possibly want. I went 28 minutes. If I can get to anybody here, Kuminga's the first guy, but that ownership is already there. Wiggins is 15% owned. I think that looks spot on. Pajemski being 17% owned feels a bit high. Point guard, shooting guard, 4K could fall into more minutes, but I'm not super excited about that Pajemski ownership. The Trace Jackson Davis stuff looks fine. He's an okay value at 4,300. I don't know if that's how I want to wrap my center position up. And then Draymond, if he plays, 6K, power forward center, 3% owned. I'd argue he's under-owned. But in terms of just getting to Golden State, Schroeder, Wiggins, Draymond, Kuminga, Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis. There's a lot to go around here for Golden State with no Steph around. That shouldn't be surprising. You take the best player off the floor, a lot of people can do a lot of other things. I do think Utah putting Sexton on ice as often as they do is odd. I think they just want to make sure he's healthy enough to be traded. Feels like what it is. We got next year and 19.1 left. They can package that up and get something good. Him and somebody else. Like, I'd really like him on OKC. He would be a huge upgrade to Oklahoma City. What would be the deal that would have to get that done? OKC and Utah. All right, OKC and Utah. So, say we wanted to get Colin Sexton to Oklahoma City. 18 million in salary. So you can go scrubs here if you wanted to. I don't think you want it to be Aaron Wiggins, but that might just be it. Could you do Aaron Wiggins and Ousmane Dieng? How much more do you need? Okay, that goes through. Wiggins, Dieng, and picks for Sexton? I can get behind that. I'd love to do it without Wiggins. I just don't think that's possible. Steven, you don't know how many picks are coming back. Utah just wants draft picks. Yeah, I'm not going to go through and there's 33 picks available here to be traded for OKC. Surely we can find some of them. I would love to do it without Wiggins, though. But it's not, I don't think they would. I mean, maybe you make it be Isaiah Joe instead, and then he's just, Colin Sexton's just taking that spot. Because that works as well. But I'd like to get Sexton to the Thunder. I would definitely not put in Dort. Neither would they. Not for Colin Sexton. They have a billion picks. A billion picks. Let me finish off the Clippers quickly. The normal rotations for LA. 10% ownership to Powell. 15 to Harden. 10 to Dunn. A little over 15 to KPJ. I do think KPJ looks like your best option. I don't think he stands out. He's 12% optimal, 20% boom. Powell's 10 and 20. Harden's 8 and 20. Zubats is 8 and 20. I think that's what we're seeing here for Golden State and the Clippers. There's an oddly large amount of ownership coming in here. This is the most owned game on the slate. 173 total percent on DraftKings. No game has more. That part is exciting to me. If I can load up ownership in Golden State and LA, we've got 7:30 swaps, 8 o'clock swaps, 9 o'clock swaps. I like the idea of loading up on this game and making it easier to move stuff around as the day goes through. I don't have anybody jumping out at me from the Clippers, but I'd like to have a lot of Golden State and a lot of LA, and then I can figure out where I can move those pieces around right before 7:30, right before 8, right before 9, and then finalize it all right before 10. So this late night hammer is a late game or a late night hammer, guys. This is a real one. This is not the late night baguette. This is the late night hammer. But that's what we have here, folks. 8 games in the books. Contenders coming out shortly. Keep your eyes peeled for that. It's Friday, guys. I'm not going to see you guys again until Monday, but I'm guessing we're going to be getting some NBA shows on Sunday soon enough. So I might start hitting those This will probably be my last NFL show this week. This is the last week of the NFL, right? Oh, no, there's 2 weeks left? Shit. All right, this week and next week, and then I'll start getting into NBA on Sunday mornings. But for now, guys, that's it. NFL Strategy Show coming up next, 10 a.m. And if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, there's an NFL Strategy Show for you guys to look at. Good luck, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'm going to get done some work, and I'm going to take a nap because that stupid puppy has had me up since 3.